everybody. My name is Sarahia Benn. Some of you may recognize me because I ran for state delegate in 2018 and I came up, 67 votes short. Everyone calls me the people's champ because I support the people, and that's why I came up so close. I'm the legislative director of Our Revolution, Baltimore City County, the executive director of Policy Foundation of Maryland, prominent environmentalist, political and policy consultant, musician, promoter, entrepreneur, all-around activist, advocate, and host of Beats and Politics podcast. Thank you for supporting us. Special edition interview, eye injury prevention, Disability Pride 13. All right, we're going to get into it and have a great time. We got a great guest. The great.
Oh, you're too kind.
Sherman Hardy. Sherman Hardy.
Woo!
There you go. So before I let him speak, and I mean, I'm going to let him speak as much as possible because I know you guys love me, but you're going to love my guest, Sherman Hardy. I want to get into his bio a little bit, and he's going to speak a little bit more about himself as we go on. But he is great. I mean, one, I know him personally, so I know he's great. But I want to know that you guys know how great he is. Sherman Hardy is a visionary and a revolutionary thinker who has served in the United States Air Force. Thank you for your service, sir, and continues to serve Prince George's community today. Wanting to continue assisting veterans with their benefits, he became a director of Veterans Association of Real Estate Professionals in Prince George's. I bet you never knew that existed. There, he was able to provide much more services, and eventually their organization began giving away a home to the homeless veterans yearly. Awesome. Sherman is a champion of social justice issues and a civil rights activist. Through Jair's work group, he has advocated for climate justice and environmental racism. As the secretary for the Southern Christian Leadership Conference of Prince George's, he was vehemently against racial injustices and fought for racial equity to close the income gap and true criminal justice reform. When transsexual members of the LGBTQ community were being murdered, he, along with other community advocates, founded the LGBTQ Dignity Project to bring awareness and fight against LGBTQ discrimination, harassment, and at times death. He has been active in calling for reform through the state's attorney office to curtail recidivism. See, a lot of people don't know about the state's attorney office. And maybe we could talk a little bit about that, Sherman. Sherman served as a board of director for Prince George's County's Association of Realtors, which is, the letters are PGCAR, one of the largest trade associations in the state of Maryland. Within PGCAR, he's a member of several committees where he tirelessly, geez, I must be tireless, excuse me, advocates for policy to bring about affordable home ownership and protection of property rights. Over the years, he has protested against tax hikes on property owners. In addition, Sherman serves as a member of the Housing Opportunity for All work group that makes recommendations for a 10-year plan for housing for all in Prince George's. A graduate of American Military University with a bachelor's in emergency and disaster management, Sherman is also an emergency manager. Wow. Having worked with FEMA headquarters at National Integration Center, he is committed to engaging communities and governments in dialogue about creating viable community-centered solutions for the future to come. Woo! Woo! Man!
Thank you for such a warm introduction.
Let me tell you something. Y'all don't understand. Y'all probably don't understand all them big words I just didn't use to describe my friend Sherman Hardy. He is a disaster man. Y'all don't understand. We just went through a pandemic. That means he is an
one of the worst.
expert at what we just went through, people. So welcome, Sherman.
Thank you for having me.
So I just want to get right into it. Why are you running? And I mean, granted, your bio pretty much tells me why you're qualified, but I want you to explain why you're qualified to run for Prince George's County Executive. Go.
Yeah, so pretty much the reason I am running is because I care. And it's not just the care that, people see, I'm concerned about what goes on in the community. I truly am invested in the day-to-day lives of all Prince Georges, because I want to make sure that we create systems, to put in place and social welfare and helping the people here, because we've been lacking in, resources for some quite time. But I'm also, that I'm the right person to do this job. As you mentioned, I am an emergency manager. I have, been preparing for disasters and things like this, since I was, 18, 19 years old, commanding in the Air Force. So, these are some of the things that, experience that I bring to the county that I kind of want to enhance upon. But not only that, as far as being a veteran, I also have law enforcement experience. I was a military police officer. I dispatched for the Florida Highway Patrol, and I have the ability to handle small and large scale events through, through the things I have done in the military, and enhancing further with creating, getting my degree in emergency disaster management. And they taught me everything about, responding to, things that we, went through in 2020. As a matter of fact, I started wearing my face mask in January of 2020.
Wow.
After paying attention, I was on top of it because, I understood and realized that, it was a respiratory, symptom, and it had to be transferred through a certain way. So I was like, well, let me protect myself because, I have international experience as well, being stationed in other countries and dealing with host nations and of such. So, those are kind of the things that was like, hey, Sherman, put on your EM hat, protect yourself, and, do better. But, I have government experience as well. I've worked as a little man in various, governments. Like I said, I worked at the Internal Revenue Service. I worked for, state, local, and I worked for federal government. Exactly. So, I have experience like with the little man. I understand the plight of the average everyday person. And I have that managerial experience as well. So, I want to capitalize off that.
And that's an interesting thing that you bring up, Sherman, because I think a lot of people don't understand that the county executive is essentially like a comptroller of a county, just like a mayor is a comptroller of a county. They're in charge of the taxation and that whole management of that entity. I don't think people really understand what goes into that. So it really requires all those skills, those management skills, those understandings, that ability to research. Because the thing is like your background, I mean, the more you're putting this information out, and I didn't know some of this, by the way, everybody. I knew that he was in military police, but like some of the stuff he's coming out with, I was like, geez, whoa, sign me up. I'm not in the right county though, unfortunately. But the thing is that these are all the skills that are required to be an absolute good management and of your executive position of a county.
Right. And
I'm not saying
and
that.
outside of that,
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. But
It's
I
your
wanted
show
to say,
now.
those are well, thank you for giving me the mic. But I have other qualifications, things that characteristics that a county executive should have. For instance, honesty. I definitely believe integrity first. You must always serve with integrity because, you have to be able to trust your elected officials. And if your officials are promising and making promises and they're not being honest, or they're not fulfilling, then that creates some kind of process where people begin to lose faith in the system. I want to restore that faith back into the system, because when I tell somebody I'm going to do something, that's what, I very much intend on doing exactly what I say.
So kind of piggybacking on what you just said, you want to restore that trust. Is there a particular thing that you're gonna do, a particular I mean,
Absolutely.
not kind of like putting everything that you're trying to do out there, but is there a particular thing that you might
No,
publish?
everybody needs to know exactly what it is that
Sure,
I want to do.
sure.
Yeah, for starters, I want to create the Office of Inspector General in Prince George's County. I know that, there are some ethics concerns, and we do have an ethics board in Prince George's County, but I believe that a person, an organization with the ability and the financial backing to investigate fraud, waste, and abuse in this county, wherever the confines of our jurisdiction are, be it for um, legislators and or contracts or bills, we need to be able to vet and ensure that, there's no impropriety. So that's what they will have the ability to do, is to investigate those things. But also I want to also create a Department of New Americans and to assist with our immigrant population. And all this goes into government accountability and reform, and also creating social systems in place, because, when we protect the least of the, everybody wins. So not only will we be able to assimilate our immigrant population, but I also want to create a Department of Consumer and Worker Protection here in Prince George's County. I think it's pivotal. Yeah, absolutely. There is one at the federal level, but basically at the lower level, we really need somebody looking out for the everyday worker, and consumer
Yes,
who, wages may not be reported properly, or who may be losing benefits, or who
yes.
should be receiving benefits, or, they're not getting their sick leave. There's so many things that we have to do to protect our workers here, to make them feel comfortable and want to live here and say, hey, they're looking out for me. Then there's people who are complaining about contractors and so many things. And, before it
Contractors.
gets to the level of, yes, absolutely. I talk to people all the time. There's someone, Miss Simmons, she complains religiously to her elected officials, and she's been saying, hey, we need to do something about contractors. And, other people have been complaining about the new bills and, different things in our county. And somebody has to protect them, and not just with construction, but, when we go to retail stores in different places and we're untreated fairly and through their practices, we have some place to go. So I think that, along the lines of creating systems in place, I think that would be great ideas for our county.
That's good. I mean, that's awesome. And actually, I have a bill, but I can't tell it right here because everybody'd steal it. But I believe that it's a bill statewide. No, I don't believe. I know for a fact it's a bill that's been overdue, and it would win a whole lot of people elections because any
Well, we'll talk afterwards.
yes, yeah, because I'm gonna be honest with you, because anything consumer, because there's really nothing consumer related in Maryland. We really have a lack of consumer, protections. It's sad because when I started, we did that little brief work group, when we tried to move for the moratorium for the pandemic, and we found real clear, right, that there really wasn't a whole lot of quote unquote consumer protections for those, and someone would call those are housing protections, but I also consider them
Right.
consumer too. When you got into the nuts and bolts of contracts, there wasn't a lot of protections for renters or people who had mortgages. They were pretty much, if the feds did not come in with some of the little protections that they did through those CARES acts and some of those acts, a lot of people
Right.
out on the street. And now they're finding still a lot of people are about to be out on the streets of some of the things that they're not able to access through those really laborious it's paperwork that some people will never be able to get through, if we're being honest. Am I correct, Sherman?
Yeah, absolutely. Because if you think about it, government has already been behind before we got to the pandemic.
Yeah.
So, when that happened, and you have employees who are, not working, and you have employees who are working, but they're working remote, never have done it, et cetera. And then we also consider that people died. So we have a smaller work pool possibly. or less human capital than we had before. So the process has slowed down, the protections weren't there. So luckily the federal government did step in, because otherwise, even when we got the funds, all of them still wasn't administered, and people are still waiting, for assistance, and not all the applications have been approved. So, we have to,
Well, did you read
thank the
that? Did
federal
you read
government for.
did you read that recent report where they stated that most minority businesses and women business didn't even access any of that in Maryland?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
they
because there's this low education, and outside of the not being able to fully get the resources out to the community, there is burdensome and bureaucracy when it comes to actually applying for a lot of these programs. So you're getting attacked on different fronts, but major corporations, and higher people who already have higher earning jobs are usually the benefactors of these programs.
because they got lawyers and people can fill it out. Let's
Yeah,
just be
absolutely.
honest
And
with you.
then they
They
said
got,
the lawyers made off of it. Yeah.
yeah, let's just call it
But
what it
and I believe that, yeah, yeah, absolutely. And in special interest, but that's not to say that, for those who actually apply the funds and use them properly to actually help their people, unlike some companies who, are
Oh
saving it
no,
up in coffers.
I'm not saying everybody who got it is being
Oh, no, no, I
disingenuous.
know.
What I'm saying is that those who had the most resources generally benefited, and those who were lucky to slip
Mhm.
by and be very diligent were the few. And what I'm saying at this particular moment in your interview is that we have a hierarchy of government that has to answer to why they didn't do a better job to address the minority and marginalized and women populations, because they lost most of their businesses in this pandemic. And
Mhm.
that's
Yeah.
in a Prince George's County where marginalized business is probably predominant or close to getting there. I'm sure that's impacted your county, which means that it'll impact your economy. And it's something, as someone who's going to try to become the county executive, it would something that would eventually impact that economy. If not now, it'll definitely impact it next year. And it's something that
Yeah, absolutely.
that needs to be thought about. So I want to move on to another question that's on the docket. You ran in a prior election. Do you think that it may
Yes.
confuse some of the people that supported you prior, or do you think it's just a continuation of what you were doing before?
Well, I'll say this. I never stopped what I was doing before I even ran for office, and that's serving the people. I think that's most important. All in order to be a public servant, you must first be a servant. But as far as confusing, my supporters, they might have been confused the first time I actually ran, because I was originally running for county council in District 9, but I switched over to delegate, and actually, was on the ballot for that. But I spoke with all my supporters, and I have their support. I told them, exactly what it was, and, my vision, and exactly why I decided to run, because to be quite honest, I never set out to actually run for county executive. It was the last thing on my mind. But when I started seeing, the disparities and the gaps, and, between, the haves and the have nots, and, and I started understanding about how, the have nots were already, burdened, and now they're going to be, doubly, um, you know, with their issues, more impacted per
More
se.
burden, yeah.
I just said that there was something that I needed to do. It was in my heart, and my mind was set on that. And I said, okay, well, Sherman, you have all this experience, be it as though it may. A lot of people don't know exactly the things that I do, because I'm not a showboat type of person. I do things, when people find me, I always tell you, look for me in the trenches. I'm not up trying to take photos. That's really not my thing. And that's just been me all my life. And I'm just being so serious. And I don't like, set up photos and like, hey, come,
But you're gonna have
but
to
I know
start.
it's a part of things that I have to do. Yeah, yeah, exactly. But yeah, so, and I'm like, just catch me in my element. So, but I do a lot because I care. And,
Mhm.
and I want to make sure that there's always somebody in the room looking out for us. Because I tell people, I like to step in the room, but like, hey, what y'all talking about? You know, so I can bring it back to the people.
That's right. That's right. But I mean, that makes sense. And sometimes I just think too, um, when I ran in 2018, I ran for state delegate. And I believe that, even this time when I run again, some people would say, oh, why are you running this, or what are you going to do? They may, but they don't understand the strategy of what's going on. I'm running myself. I'm running against an opponent because I have a scourge in my area, and you know very well who her name is, but it's not about
Right,
her.
right.
But the thing is that unfortunately, a lot of times the people that are around us don't understand in politics. Sometimes different things trump things. And like you said, when you started looking at your skills and you started looking at what was really going on, and I think the pandemic probably showed you specifically
Mhm.
and I'm not trying to put down anybody in this interview, but there were some things that were exposed in that pandemic, Maryland wide, in terms of our leadership from top to bottom, from bottom to top, and many of them were missing. And I can say particularly
Yeah,
in my
absolutely.
county, they were missing, except for maybe one
Yeah.
person. And I'm not going to make comments about your county. I have observations, but but I'm just going to say that it wasn't good. And the thing is that we put people in positions, they get paid large sums of money to make tough decisions. And we know that they're not perfect people, we understand that. But the thing about it is this, is that if you can't make a good decision in the tough time, we don't need you in the easy time, right? We're not here to have a
Very true.
celebration all the time on the people's dime. This is serious. And last year was serious, and it could possibly get serious again with this Delta variant out there, as you well know. Uh, um, Sherman, one of the things that I just heard recently, and I know this wasn't really where I was going with the interview, but I'm going to go this way. Um, they were talking about that all the deaths in Maryland that happened in COVID last month were due to unvaccinated peoples. And we still
Mm-hmm.
have a high incident of
I'm
unvaccinated
vaccination.
people Maryland wide.
Mhm.
And one thing I remember about Prince George's County was that a large amount of people were coming outside of your county to get vaccinations, while the large population of Prince George's wasn't accessing those vaccinations. And so my question to you is that, um, what do you think needs to go on at this point to continue to address those in your county? And I know you're not in a position of power, but you are in the activist community, to address those who are unvaccinated, at least get the message to them that this is still serious business.
Yes, yes. To answer your first question, I definitely saw where our elected officials were missing. And that's part of what pissed me off, to be really honest. And yeah, I'm sorry for saying it that way, but it really did, because I'm like, people are struggling and suffering the worst times of their life, the worst times of their life, and they were silent. They were silent. They let our executives, at the governorship and in various local communities, like, sat silent. And even through the discourse of that, we had the largest social movement in history, in modern day history that people can remember, and they were slow to act. They were slow to act. The unemployment was messed up.
Yeah.
They were slow to act. With so many social services, and we're talking about the vaccines and getting those out. Even before it was vaccine, there was testing.
Hmm.
They were slow to act.
Yeah.
And it upset me. And I said I couldn't believe, I couldn't fathom that we weren't doing enough. I couldn't understand exactly what the problem was. But and then I know you said that we were, people had to leave out of our county to actually get vaccinated when the time came, because definitely we had the center at the Six Flags, where it was state run, but we had our local jurisdiction as well, and the list and everything was set up wrong for that. So I'm like, what was everybody planning for the different phases of this this disaster? Because when it comes to disaster management, there are phases and processes that you go through, because while you're doing your recovery, you still need to plan for what comes after recovery and stuff like that. So there's so much that we missed. and I wanted to pick up that slack, because like I say, I don't have any higher aspirations. I'm thinking about the county right now. And people say, oh, well, you went straight for the top. I didn't go for the top. I'm going where my highest and best purpose is, where I feel as though I can make the greatest impact immediately to better the lives of all Prince Georges. And that's what I did, and I don't regret it. I know it's going to be hard. I know it's going to be difficult, but when people get to know and understand why I'm doing it, I hope they truly understand that it's coming from my heart.
I believe so. So you're not new to politics, and many, do know who you are, but some don't. Now you're stepping in a squared ring, Sherman, and it's going to bring some attention to you. And the thing is that probably right now you don't have any political enemies, but if you start really putting, as I call that, foot, you start making a threat to someone's territory or the machine's territory, you're going to start definitely getting some political enemies, like this here people's champ definitely has acquired. And do you currently have any political enemies, and how will you deal with those who may not be political enemies but have the possibility of becoming that when you get full running? Because you're starting to run right now, but you're not in full run, full blast out there. And I know once you start getting full blast, then they're gonna start like, wait, I'm starting to feel a little bit pressure. Wait, so under pressure.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I would say, hopefully I don't have any enemies. I don't seek out to make enemies in this fight that I in this walk that I do. And if I have made any enemies, I'm speaking directly to you, I apologize. And come talk to me, because I can't fathom, me, making enemies in the process of trying to liberate our people. I stick to myself and I just fight the issues, and that's all that I do. And, hopefully in the process of it, I don't make enemies because of, people are looking at me. I hope people aren't paying attention to me, because it's not about me. I'm hoping people are paying attention to the policies, because if people truly, truly want the freedom that we speak of, the capital that we speak of, the notoriety that we speak of, they will pay attention to the issues and the policies and the solutions that I'm trying to bring forward.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm going to tell you something, Sherman. That is great. I didn't step on that branch and try to start anything either, but I still agree on it. Nevertheless, I'm nice to everybody, and I like to help everybody. But what it is, when I'll say it this way: when you start threatening people's position, their paycheck, that's when it becomes. You don't even realize, they just feel threatened. But yet you're right, we got to stay focused on the issues, and because we're fighting for a bigger, people need to understand this is about people's livelihood, and I tell people this every day, like, this is, I could easily go back and just be a musician. You could easily just be in real estate. It's not easy to step out on, this is a leap of faith that we're all doing. And, and so we're doing this as a conduit. It's not so much about us. We're just that conduit to do that next phase. And so we need everyone's support. We're not trying to, like you said, if we hurt somebody's feelings, please come talk to us. We don't want nobody to ever think that we just, we're human. Some days I'm not feeling good. Maybe I didn't say hi the way I should have said hi. Don't just come talk to me. You know what I'm saying? But unfortunately, even in this process, we end up making people not happy. But at the end of the day, if we make people happy through that policy, and that's what we need to have, because I think for so long,
Yeah, absolutely.
Maryland, and I know I'm taking it outside of Prince George's, but Maryland wide, we've had such a failure at politics. And when I say failure, because everybody calls us this progressive state, but it's not.
Right. At all.
You know what I'm
At all.
saying? And I hate
In this barely progressive light.
I hate even using the word progressive, because that word has been, for lack of a better term, been bastardized. It doesn't even
Diluted.
really
Yeah.
exist.
But Black people were the original progressives,
We didn't even need a
Yeah,
title.
so I'll start there.
You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
But and I've slowly been transitioning from calling myself progressive. And as you see in the introduction, I'm revolutionary. I'm a visionary and a revolutionary, because I have seen how we have made progressivism a negative connotation, and it has taken a different turn through the liberal media, and then dredged through the through the code from the Republican base. But overall, when you have a group of people that are seeking to progress, and that's the whole point of life, ain't it? Like, we should be advancing, not regressing. So I just yeah, whatever.
I just want to move forward, whatever it is. And I know we got to move forward together, because like I was talking to someone the other day, elder lady, and I said to her, I said, we were talking about race. We were talking about racist issues, deep race issues. I didn't even go to the party to talk to her about this, but she wanted to talk about it for whatever reason. I must be the one that people want to talk to about. And she said, it's been great talking to you. I said, but you know what? I said, we're not going anywhere separately. We going down together like the Titanic, or we going up together like George Jefferson. I mean, from moving on up. You know what I mean? I said, so George and Wheezy, you know what I'm saying?
That's where my name came from.
What?
Literally, my mom named me because she was a fan. Yes, absolutely. And we have to talk about this every time.
We had to talk about
yeah, absolutely.
Oh my goodness. So we were talking about how we were linked. And I explained to her, I said, even you being in Baltimore County, you're linked to Harford County. And even though you're in Prince George's County, I'm linked to you. Your success is linked to my success in Harford. And I don't think people understand this. We're all linked. And so if you fail, we fail. We're all failing together.
We're all in this together. Yeah.
That's why I reach out to everyone and everything. And so I kind of want to get into, I know I'm kind of jumping around, but I just want to hit a little bit of everything. So I saw your original ad when you came out. And so who came up with the concept to it? And how are you going to get it out there to more people? Because I think it was pretty darn brilliant.
So we're going there. Again, I was pissed. It was my doing. I turned on the camera and I just started speaking. Have I gone back and watched it? No, I have not. So yeah, it was definitely my idea, but and I saw the anger in myself, and I won't necessarily say anger, but I saw, I felt the disappointment, and so many other, feelings and emotions that, and it was just, I just want to let the people know that they have a choice and opportunity to do something different. There are, and when you talk about, the machines and stuff like that, there's extensions in this community. And people say, oh, I don't get into politics, or I don't, do local politics, or I don't vote because of X, Y, and Z. But we have to start understanding that that's where everything happens at the local level. And you can, prevent some people from going national by stopping at the local. Yeah. But again, as I explained to you, just seeing the lack, the focus wasn't on Prince George's County at all. We were in a pandemic, and the county still looked like a dump. And I know people from Prince George's, I'm so sorry, please forgive me. I know we love our county and we don't like to say anything about gorgeous Prince George's, but we were lacking in resources.
Yeah.
And the county was closed.
Wow.
People said, I noticed a difference when I crossed from out of Charles County to Prince George's County. The roads aren't ice. This is done. And granted, we were in a pandemic, but there shouldn't have been that much trash and weeds and grass. I mean, that then I saw where we weren't paying attention to the individuals who are suffering, as I said before. So that video was a culmination of just watching all of this, especially like the unrest and not going with full criminal justice reform here in Prince George's County. We can do more and we should do more. And it was just saying, hey, look at me. I'm here for us, and we can do this. If you really want a people power campaign, consider me. That's what that video was about. And will I put it up? And I think I would refine it and do a better one, to disseminate. But if anybody wants to find it, it is on my Facebook like page at Hardy for PG on Facebook.
That's cool. And there's nothing wrong with refining, because you know what? We can always relaunch our campaign and do what we want to do. And so we've come to this point in our interview, Sherman, where I'm going to say a word and a phrase, and you just kind of say what comes to mind, because it's more of like to get you to express what you think about just what you think about this particular word. And it could be a political or whatever. So I'm gonna say integrity.
Sure, man.
All right. Opponent communication flaw. Opponent's communication flaw.
Which opponent?
Your opponent.
Well, I have a couple, don't
I?
I know this is supposed to be short and quick. I didn't want to even get into the opponents of this and that, because now you're gonna make me have an enemy for real. But
no.
But I would, to answer the question, I would say transparency and transparency.
That's good. Transparency is good. That's all I asked. I ain't made no enemy with that one. Stat quo. Stat quo.
Prince George's.
Policy that improves equity. Policy that improves equity. Now that could be national, Prince George's, statewide. It could be anything. Policy.
Reparations.
Woo. Political powerhouse. Political powerhouse.
Stacey Abrams.
All right. Response to COVID-19 in Maryland. Response to COVID-19.
Deplorable.
Maryland leader. Leader. Maryland leader.
A Maryland leader. TBD.
Say that again.
TBD.
TBD.
To be determined.
To be determined. Okay. Top Maryland activists. Top Maryland activists.
Ooh, there's so many.
Just name anyone.
Me. No, let me stop. Let me be humble. You definitely have to edit this for sure. Can we skip this one?
Okay, I will skip that one. We'll edit that out. Maryland podcast. You better get this right. Maryland podcast.
Sarahia.
It's in politics.
Absolutely. You better show that I'm on Beats in Politics.
That's right. Okay, we got it right. Okay.
That's until I come on the scene to do my Barbara Walters.
All right. So Sherman, I want you to give us your platform in less than 1 minute. But I gotta get my phone. Hold on one second. I gotta get my phone.
Okay.
Do this, because I time everybody. Okay, you ready?
That's good. Even though it's not going to be, I'm gonna do it in under 60 seconds, but
Yeah.
you can't contain my platform.
No, but wait, I'm gonna give you time. I'm gonna give you time.
Okay, go ahead.
30,
Go ahead.
60 seconds. Here you go. There you go.
Short and quick.
There you go. Hit it.
All right. So my platform pretty much is government reform and accountability, which, like I said, I want to create an Office of Inspector General expeditiously. I need to have a Department of Consumer and Worker Protection. And also I need to have my, oh God. Okay, so yeah. And then also for criminal justice reform, I need to end traffic stops. I want to ban the use of cash bail, and I also want police officers to have their own liability insurance. And then I also want the board to be back fully elected and select their own leadership. And I want to audit all county positions to ensure that, figure out where we're overlapping that when it comes to manpower and resources.
Awesome. You did that in 47 seconds. And let me tell you something. Now you got time to say anything else you want to say. That was just your 60-second pitch, because guess what? That's what you're going to be saying when you're door knocking, and that's what I do, is that I set it up for you candidates. I'm actually consulting you guys. I bring you on to consult you guys. That's so wrong.
Yes.
But I just do, because I can't help myself, because it's the consultant in me, and because I care about everybody.
Yeah, we have to always be ready.
No, I care about everybody I bring on, because there's going to be people that you meet and they ain't going to want to hear the 3-minute, the 10-minute. Like sometimes they going to want to hear that 30 seconds, and that's all they got. And if they heard that from you, all right, I got you. You know what I'm saying? But if you said to them, man, I can't tell you in 1 minute, they'd be like, oh, bro, I ain't voting for you, man. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly, right.
We don't want that.
Yeah.
We want them to always vote. And so that's why I
But
do
see,
that.
and that's part of the problem. Like, we like that micro stuff as well. I definitely, tell me a little more about, when you say you're gonna do X, Y, and Z. You feel me? Because when we're campaigning, they always tell us to pick your top three and go ahead and pitch that. But thank you for the opportunity to be able to tell the rest of my platform, because it's so exhaustive, to be quite honest with you. Because I didn't get to mention, I want to, as I've been saying, I want to enhance our social services when it comes to like homelessness and Department of Housing. We don't have, I mean, I'm not going to say what we don't have, because we know what we don't have. I mean, we are progressing in some areas, and I think that we're doing good when it comes to trying to get stuff for seniors and for kids. But we need to bring more entertainment for the general public, because part of the goal was to bring millennials and other cohorts to Prince George's County. However, we're pushing people out of the county, to be quite honest, because people feel like they're being overtaxed. Once people actually, yeah, absolutely. I've talked to several people within the last couple of weeks because of overtaxed, and they feel like they don't have any social services.
Wow.
I mean, granted, we say that Prince George's, people are buying houses at, an astonishing rate, and it's true. But you have to think about it because of affordability, yes. Because
makes sense.
Around us, the prices are a little higher. But when you start factoring your taxes and stuff like that, people are starting to say, well, wait a minute, now I'm going to be paying almost, what I could have been paying somewhere else. And I'm not getting all the resources. People have, even exited not just Prince George's, but the whole state of Maryland. But I want to keep people here. I was talking to one of my good friends who went to, was born and raised here, went to school here. And she said, Sherman, I want to leave. I wish I could, but I can't afford it. She said that so many of us are living with our parents right now. But just the fact that she said it's not like I want to buy my own house here, or I want to, find a renter here. I want to leave.
Wow.
And that's disheartening, because I absolutely love Prince George's and the culture here. Like, when I moved here, it felt like family.
So you basically
that's part of it.
Base. You're losing your taxable base. Yeah. Wow. Sorry.
Yeah. And it's not just the young people. Some of the people who have been around a lot longer, COVID have lifted the veil for many people, and they're starting to see exactly, people had nothing but time on their hands, and they're like, okay, well, hey, something is awry. But like I said, I definitely want to bring entertainment to the county. But I also want to fight environmental racism and become energy independent. I I would love to figure out how to socialize energy, to be quite honest with you. I know a lot of people's like, what? How do you do that? But by upgrading our grid, and using what comes natural. There's many things that we can do in order to get off the
To
grid
get
and
independent.
not face what Texas did.
If we don't get independent in Maryland, we're gonna go under. I mean, we're so tied
Yeah.
to other states. It's people don't even have a
Mhm.
clue how tied we are to
Yeah.
other people's economies. Virginia, West Virginia, and Pennsylvania would completely go under if Maryland would just stop paying their electric bills. I'm just saying, stop paying the bill. Stop paying
Yeah.
the
Yeah. But as a veteran, those issues are very dear to my heart too, because and I'm going to be completely honest. Everybody says we support our troops, but no, no, and that's a sentiment that we all feel. It's only for convenience. And even when I tell people, that I'm running, they're like, oh, what have you done? I'm like, I'm a veteran. People expect me to do, just say so much more. I'm like, first of all, like I did sign up to serve this country of anything, but so I want to, I want the veterans to feel like they want to live here instead of moving to Delaware, moving to other places,
Sure.
because of, the various incentives that they get for being veterans. I can't fathom why we don't have a veterans hospital here in Prince George's County. I know there's one in DC that I go to, but, with the largest amount of veterans concentrated in Prince George's County, around 60,000, which is more than any other county in the state of Maryland, which is more than DC and Virginia. I don't see why we don't have officers. Now, granted, we do have a community-based outpatient clinic, which is off Allentown Road, and they said they're going to bring another one. But when you think about all the resources that a veterans hospital brings, it's also good for the economy.
Jobs.
But it's also a teaching hospital. Yeah, absolutely. So it's not only jobs, but it's education, because now, our education scholars who are, going through, the programs in high school on to college, they have another track that they go to, at one of the, veterans hospitals. So I definitely want to bring that to our district, but I also want to enhance the veterans, Department of Veterans Affairs here in Prince George's County, and create a better partnership with Andrews Air Force Base. That is a huge talent, large pool of talent that we need to keep here in some form or fashion, because they have a whole year when they're out processing, and we can find them a job and figure out, where they can stay and, et cetera, et cetera. Not saying that those are the programs specifically, but
Sure.
We need to look out and see how we can attract them before they leave to different places. And also want to create a fund, to create more veteran businesses here as well. The GI Bill and, the housing bill, those were things that improved, the middle class for African Americans, through civil rights and afterwards.
So
through programs like that,
what's good for Prince George's is actually good for Maryland, because now we're building a tax base that's building into Maryland. I'm just listening to what you're saying, and that's just, that's a lot of good stuff that doesn't sound like it's being exploited at all. And that's
really, we haven't tapped into our different areas.
And that sounds like a whole lot of stuff that needs to be tapped. So let me kind of go a little in another direction. If you were given a chance to amend the Prince George's charter without interference, what do you think you would change? And I know that's, a lot of people get a little funky about when you start talking about constitutions and charters. And I'm what you call a strict constitutionalist. And I'll explain what I mean strict constitutionalist. I believe that there's no such thing as that you can't change it, but that I know a lot about what the Constitution is from its beginning. I'm a historian of it on the federal level, state levels, and even the local level. So that means I study it. And so to me, that I always believe that it can be improved because humans make these things. But a lot of people, I always get these discussions, the debates, and people are like, oh, yeah, I know more and it never should be changed. And as soon as I explain to them, well, you're talking about the Bill of Rights. And they're like, no, I'm not. And I'm like, well, here, yeah, you are. And they're like, oh. So to get back, what my question was, if you had an opportunity to amend the charter without interference, would there be anything you think that you would change in it or add to it, alter, reform, or just maybe you might not have even thought about it. Maybe you haven't thought about it at this point, and maybe you can get back to me about that. So I mean, because that's a tough question, to be honest with you, Sherman.
It is, but and it's not a simple answer that I can give. I will say that I'm not a king, and I don't want to be a king. So, changing, an amendment to serve my self purpose would never be something that I want to do. And as somebody who has sworn to protect and defend the Constitution of this United States several times, I wholeheartedly agree with you about, the, and I'm gonna go a step further because people say, well, that Constitution wasn't designed for me. It took amendments in order for me to be included. Yes, it did, but my ancestors took part in that too, whether people realize it or not. So, I am thrilled to protect and uphold, the United States Constitution. But on the local level, there isn't much I would change except for allowing the school board to be fully elected.
Okay, that's fair, because I did hear a large breakout about a delegate. I think one that's running for the senator seat. I'm not going to mention that person's name because I don't want to promo him on my place unless he's going to come on my place. But I was very shocked because that person's highly educated, but the bill was not very. It wasn't written in a very educated way, which tells me that maybe that person didn't write it. And I'm saying this as a person who is a political consultant. There are people that are carrying other people's water, machine. I'm just saying. And so, we have to be mindful of that type of thing. So that's a fair enough answer. And I'm not also a queen, king, or anything. And I don't believe that you should easily amend or change anything.
Right.
But I also think that stuff that was written in the 1700s, we have to also revisit in 2021, especially when we're looking at currently the Voting Rights Act debate that's going now. We can't have what's going on in all these other states where they're like essentially pushing us back to Jim Crow in terms of voting. Because what people need to understand, the Constitution says one person, one vote. It doesn't say that I get to deny your access to that in all manner of ways and make you jump through all these pinholes. It doesn't even say anything about voter ID, by the way. That's not in the Constitution, by the way. And even what acceptable voter ID is a question too. And a lot of people ping me for this because they're like, oh, this is not a Democrat. I'm telling you what the Constitution says. You could argue, hey, argue with George and Alexander and Thomas. I didn't make that up.
I don't know how they will, but
so that's what I always say. So that's why I say that, and I said this many years ago, and this was before I even really got into politics, that they needed to stop playing with that act and making an amendment when they had the ability, because I knew eventually it was going to come to this, because they're playing politics with people's lives. People have, the blood of our soil is littered. My cousin died in the Civil War, so my people in Hartford County could vote. I have family that have been veterans. You know what I'm saying? My father is a veteran, like you are. I have people in the military now, who have died. Other people who are listening to this are serving now and have people in their families that have served. So people could have this vote. And it's not about an agreement on parties. We should all have access to the vote. We cannot talk about the greatest nation in America without all of us having access to the vote. No one should be denied, even if the result doesn't come out with the person we want. So I'm sorry, Sherman, I know I interrupted your thing right there, but it's just that's constitutional.
It's fine because and I feel you right here because my shero is Fannie Lou Hamer, and I understood what it takes to have the access. People, Listen to the Ballad of the Bullet by Malcolm X.
Yes.
Just listen to it, because if you understood the power of your ballot, if you
Mhm.
understood how much they are, why would they spend so much time trying to keep you from doing it? And why would you allow somebody to do it? Now, that's a good question. Now, whether you vote or you don't vote, that is your personal choice. And I wish everybody would vote. And I wish it was more accessible. But when I see somebody trying to take something away from me that I may or may not want, I don't care, if you decide, how you feel about it, but it's mine. And I do what I choose with it. And that's what we as citizens should do as well. When politicians come around, during election times and they're, begging for your vote, there's your power. And of course, they're going to tell you, some are going to tell you certain things, but we have to understand that it doesn't, the needle doesn't move how we think it does. And once we become more engaged and we understand, that's where we figure out, okay, well, this is where the gridlock is. And now I need to pay attention more to who are these people who are elected, because obviously that person is the problem. You understand what I'm saying? So
That's
we need
right.
to figure out how we're going to mobilize and get them out so that we can have our agenda. That's where we have failed. That's where we have suffered, because we have not fully paid attention to who are the people we are electing to office. We just get a nice little sample ballot that says official, and we take that as gold, for the population that does do that.
And those sample ballots mostly are illegal. In my assessment, they're unregistered slates, and nobody has ever tested those in court. And one of them that were done in 2018 against me, in my belief, was completely illegal. And I believe they're doing it statewide, and we need to stop letting that happen. Because
Mhm.
it's doing a disservice to people's tax dollars. Let's just be honest. It's just not.
Yeah.
And people are complaining, and everybody's like, "Oh man, I'm not getting served." You're not. You're right. So we got to stop buying into the game. It's a shell game, and guess what? Every
Yeah.
time the ball's not where we want it to be. So let's stop doing the same thing.
Right.
know?
Exactly. It's insanity, because the only thing is we just moving, we're playing like bingo with positions, or hot potato or something. It's like, okay, well, I'm gonna jump from this one to this one, but you haven't done anything in the first one, so we have to figure out something different.
Absolutely. So Prince George's County residents tend to be single car commuters. I know there's definitely some transit there. I mean, because definitely the connections between DC and going over into the other area, definitely not like Hartford, trust me. But which means they are still an area that contributes to pollution. Do you have any policies that you will write or engage in as county executive that would address some of those issues in your district? Because obviously Maryland is suffering from a climate crisis, whether our current representation realizes that or not.
Yeah, yeah. And as I said earlier on, I want to combat environmental racism, and environmental injustices, because, as Black and Brown people, we don't know what that looks like, to be quite
Mhm.
honest, and haven't really focused on that per se, because we're still trying to get equity in other avenues. But definitely, we need to be able to expand our transportation infrastructure, so that we can have, more ridership. And we also need to design the routes so that they make sense,
Mhm.
and use microtransit. The more availability and the easier the access is, to get into some of these ride sharing and microtransit, and bus lines. The less traffic we'll have. But outside of that, I'm looking into the future. I want to put, the stations here, for electrical vehicles, or for the different type of fuels and stuff like that. Because when you have the infrastructure, people, kind of gravitates here, and actually use it, because we can move towards, the electric cars and stuff like that, or the hybrid cars. At this point, we need to start transitioning, and possibly, that's something that we can look into from the grants from the federal government, is figure out, how we can use those funds to encourage, car owners to, switch over.
The transition. And the thing is, we should have already been transitioning, right? Because it's
Yeah,
been
yeah,
something
absolutely.
that's been talked about. I just know, I remember, when I was younger. And when I say, I'm old right now, but I was really younger at one point. And we were talking about we're going to eventually be having these George Jetson like cars. And I mean, it was a little bit of a joke. No, I mean, it was a little bit of a joke.
I mean, but we said that too.
But you know what I'm saying? It was a little bit of a joke. But the truth is that we were moving towards that idea and they were building towards that idea. But nobody ever, it was like it's almost like they're stuck on this fuel powered engines, like we stuck on crack. Like, what are we on the corner or something? You know what I'm saying? And so like my whole thing is that it a lot of times what it is that it's all those deals that none of us see that many of us are paying for. And the public just doesn't seem to understand it. And again, if we could just kind of get people,
because we don't make it clear to them.
Well, but you know what? It's not
because I was
just
talking to people
us either. To be honest with you, it's not.
I'm talking about the elected officials and
yeah,
and to explain those policies. But I'm sorry. Go ahead.
You go ahead.
Yeah. So because I was talking with the community at some meet and greets, and I was letting them know that I want to handle your trash problem. When it comes to we complained about the 2-a-day trash pickup. And then, where's the trash going to Brown Station Road and, different facilities. So I'm like, we should be able to have trash when you need it, because there are systems in place that, can determine, if the trash is full, they come pick it up, immediately. So now we don't have those environmental hazards in front of our house and the smells and all the other stuff that people are talking about. But that's creating jobs. That's going to create thousands of jobs for our county, because now, we're switching over, and that's going to bring in new technology and different things. It's time that we move towards green jobs. We have to stop fighting against it and embrace it and actually, lead the way for it, because I think that we can capitalize off this in our county. I want to turn our trash into fuel, actually. I know there's programs right now to, with WSSC for the Piscataway plant, but, we can do that with our trash too. I spoke with a Prince George's native who lives in Atlanta now. He has a trash company. And he was saying that he has the machines, to pick up everything and, even large items and, dispose of it. And through the gasification process, it can break everything down, and actually use every component of that trash. Because now we're going to create energy from the gasification process that can fuel, power plants or refuel the center, or, put gas in cars and stuff like that. So, that's newer technology that's going to come. And like I say, we need to be at the forefront of that kind of stuff. Plus, I mean, it's going to help because, he was also saying that, we get a rebate, we get the tax credit.
Absolutely.
And then you also get, possible money back at the end of the year for depending on how much trash you use.
Now, I don't know.
Hopefully people won't be throwing trash in the street.
No, I hope not. But I don't know if you were looking at some of the state committee things. I was on the Climate and Crisis Act. I was a part of the advocacy with John David Fraser Hidalgo. And I don't know if you saw that committee thing, but they were chewing up our bill. And part of the reason why they were chewing up our bill about the rebates, talking about nobody would turn them in, even though it was going to be set up that nobody had to turn nothing in, it was going to just come to them. But,
right. Because they don't read.
But my whole thing was this is like, they got, my point was that the IRS got our checks on time. The government does work effective, but they were just basically saying the government didn't work. Yet they're working in the government. Sometimes I just don't understand the way of thinking. And it was just, some of it is not a way of thinking. Some of it is clearly that their interests are not for the people. And so the thing is that we're moving towards something, whether, let me say it this way. It doesn't matter what we're moving towards. The earth is moving towards something. And if we don't pick it up, we're going to be heated. Let me just say it that way. And
I mean, look at California.
Well, I've lived out in California, just to let you know. And I know it was hot out there in the 90s when I was living out there. So it's not unusual to me. Those days are not unusual. So the thing is that, what's unusual, I'll tell you what's unusual. California is not unusual. Maryland's unusual. It is hotter in Maryland now. Okay. Our winters are unseasonably hotter. Okay.
Yeah. We haven't had a big snow.
Not had normal weather patterns in Maryland since I was a child. And that's really where you need to worry. California is actually pretty much normal because when I was living there, it was 125. Okay. So,
Well, I was talking about the fires, but definitely,
oh,
yeah,
it
we
was,
have our problems
yeah,
because
yeah.
actually in Brandywine, we rank number, what is 11th for soil pollution, for air pollution. We have our other, the forever chemicals in the water here, in Southern Maryland. So, I mean, it's just, it's so much going. Yeah, girl. I mean, there's
We
what,
really
4
gotta
power
talk.
plants concentrated in the second
We gotta,
area.
we gotta
You
talk.
know,
We
um, th-
gotta
there
talk.
was a whole Brandywine coalition. Yeah, I mean, so
I
as African Americans, I know, and minorities, I know that we have a lot on our plate, but we still can't let certain things slip or slide because what do you think all these not heart, but all these asthma and other health conditions come from? When and then you couple that with not having the resources with reliable medical care, or not having insurance, and then you have to deal with the stress of of life and everything else, and all those are affecting us, from Big Ma up and down, and we haven't paid attention to it because that's just the way it is. No, it's not the way it
and
is. We can
Sherman,
do something about it.
you were talking about my area in the same way. I'm serious because we just got rid of an incinerator out of my district like a few years ago, and the same problems in my area with environmental asthma. So the same issues that are in Prince George are in my area, and so it's
Mhm.
great that you have the heartbeat and pulse of your area. So, quick question: do you support maglev?
Mhm. No, absolutely not. I mean, I haven't supported for when I heard the concept of it. Quiet is kept. Like, first of all, you're not going to build nothing in my county. We're not going to benefit off of it. I'm sorry, as county executive, that's not going to ever happen. If
Hello.
anybody going to benefit off of it, we are.
Hmm.
And second, it's not. I don't even think we have a land lease on it. So, I mean, I'm tired of giving away our resources. No, absolutely not. No, that's how
Amen.
I answer.
You have a military background that we discussed a little bit earlier. How do you think you will further contribute to the policing policy? Because there have been some concerns with some issues with policing clearly in not only the last few years, but just in general in Prince George's County. And, there's been, last year was pretty tumultuous. Do you think you
Mhm.
can you don't have to give again your whole platform, but maybe just some ideas of how you would be the general of over, granted you wouldn't be the sheriff, but I'm just saying, you know what I'm saying, but you would be direct.
Right. Yeah. No, definitely. I understand the position of county executive and being the lead of all the departments, but you have to people have to understand that I'm going to allow them to do their work, but I'm going to expect them to do it in decency and in order.
Mhm.
And if there's people who can't, then we'll find something else. But definitely my background when it comes to military, and that's part of it. It's, excuse me for saying that. I don't know if you can edit that out or not, but when it
I
comes
will.
to the people. Good, thank you. When it comes to the people and our needs, I don't see me kowtowing or pussyfooting trying to get the resources that we need because, and I understand as a military person and veteran how government works. I mean, a bureaucracy at the finest is in the military, so I understand how to create dialogue and also relationships, not just within Prince George's County but all over. But we're talking about specifically in policing.
Mhm.
Um, you know, um, Definitely the police department takes a paramilitary approach style to it. And me being a military police officer, that actually enhances my knowledge, skills, and ability when it comes to police departments. And like I said, I work for the Highway Patrol. When
Wow.
it comes to police reform, yeah, exactly. Like I say, I definitely want to create public service aids where they respond to incidents um, that aren't felony offenses. That you don't need a certified law enforcement officer. It's they're there to take reports. They're there to figure out exactly what's going on, and they can respond to all those things without having the need for an officer to arrive because we understand what happens when they kind of come to the scene. It doesn't always turn out the best way. So I want to prevent that. I want to prevent all the lawsuits that we have for you know um, and the settlements that we're doing, like the $20 million one that we have, and the onslaught that are coming, these are just being passed down from previous administrations. They're just
Sure,
keep rolling and rolling. And my experience, I understand that the police officers don't need to be responding to everything because they're not trained for that.
sure. And
Then that's a short answer. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
no, that's I'll be honest with you. That's exactly, you're basically saying you're going to do some, you're going to go back to a community policing module where the community has a voice, and that the policing is within the community, and that people respect everybody. And everybody, because I remember growing up, quiet as it kept, the policing was in the community, and people knew the local patrol cop, or whatever would have you. We didn't. I mean, I'm not saying they were all perfect, but we really didn't have a large amount of these abrasions until they seemed to monetize policing. Once they seemed to turn policing to monetize, and then they tried to get them to do so many things that are really not policing.
I mean, pretty much they're the catch-all when after hours, or even during hours, because technically, who do you call when there are certain things going on?
Exactly.
I mean, and I can just put an underline, and you can fill in the blanks, but police should only be called when it's life, limb, property. When stuff is like violent crimes and stuff like that. Like, when someone's having a medical problem or different stuff like that, we don't need to call the police for that. Let's free them up to actually do police work. Let's use this training that they talk about, all this experience that they talk about. And let's go find who broke into my house back in, 2013.
Right.
That's what I'm trying to say.
Let them do their job.
And that's what I'm trying to say. Like, let's give them a little more freedom, take them off the road from doing traffic stops, unless it's felony offenses, of course. We definitely need that. And focus on, real crime. Let's reduce that and gun violence.
Because honestly, I'm going to say it here. You're going to hear it first. Because if you really want to back the blue, you want them to get home safe. You don't want to put them in positions for silly stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, back the blue for real, and have them work with the community where the community feels safe and they feel safe. Because
because I mean, I have a deep go ahead.
No, I was just saying, because I was looking up the incidents. They're not having incidents with murderers. They're having incidents with people that are walking while black or brown. I mean, they're not even. It's not even stuff. That's stuff. Sometimes the people are not even committing crimes. And that you don't.
Yeah, because I know you asked me about my military.
Yes.
Yeah, I know you asked about the military aspect of me and policing, but even on a basic level as a dispatcher for Night Patrol, I answer those calls and I dispatch officers. So I understood exactly what the majority of the calls were. And I'm telling you now, we can save so much time and resources by by having to respond to those type of incidents and freeing them up to do that.
So you're saying,
like I say, and when it comes
saying at the dispatching.
Well, yeah. Well, in general, because when I'm sworn in, I'm already have my executive orders ready, and that will, one of them will be ending traffic stops, because like I say, that I think my goal is to bring about systemic and generational change, and part of bringing systemic and generational change is breaking those generational curses and those systemic policies that were set in place many moons ago that we have came to accept as normal. Police officers were slave catchers. And to this present day, I still kind of feel that vibe. Like, pretty much they're just trying to catch people in traffic stops doing, X, Y, and Z. They sit around and they wait, at certain points. And I understand that certain things are high target areas, but, definitely let's use that for more productive policing.
Sure. That's and we want them to do their job. We want them to get home safe, but we also don't want.
Because they want to tell a story too, and I want them to tell it accurately.
Sure.
Which is also why I'm calling on Aisha Braveboy and County Executive Angela Alsobrooks to do a couple of things. That's one, fire every individual who's on the Brady list, because I believe that anybody who cannot fully perform their duties as assigned should not be working. They should not be getting paid. You know, we don't know what these people have done as citizens, and they're still on the force and they're working. What kind of sense does that make? How much is these people really worth?
You heard it here first. All right, Mr. Sherman.
And we also need to settle the uh
No, go
I was
ahead.
gonna say we also need to settle that discrimination lawsuit as well. You know, $40 million is a lot of money coming out of our general fund.
That is a lot of ducats. Wow.
Yeah.
So I wanted
Let's
to
just
move,
promote the people.
I wanted to move into my final two segments. The last, next to the last segment is the hot list. Do you have any other? Because you talked a lot about a lot of policies. To be honest with you, in this interview, are there any
Yeah.
other policies that you'd like to speak about that are in regards of Prince George's or related to Prince George's from a state level or even from a federal to state level that you find that
Yeah.
could help your in administration if and when you become county executive?
Yes. On a federal level, I am waiting on this John Lewis voting rights reform bill. You know that I'm deeply anticipating waiting because we sent them there and they have what they need now to pass bills. They just need to get in there and do it. I think it's unconscionable how we're playing around with our voting rights, but that's neither here nor there. Things that directly impact us here because you know um, we are progressive when it comes to voting rights, and those are some of the bills that I actually love, which was HB what is it 1048, which was for election laws through Delegate Wilkins, which would expand the access to voting, permanent absentee by mail. I think that's amazing. We definitely can use those mail-in ballots, and it may increase voter turnout because you know traditionally people may not want to wait in those long lines. So hopefully you're early voting and you're turning in
Yeah.
your ballots. But they also have the drop boxes as well. I think that's crucial, because that we've seen it was able to help so many people who traditionally were having hard times getting inside of those facilities as well. But HB 222, which also was an election bill, um, allows persons in correctional facilities to vote. I think that's crucial
Yes.
because taking away somebody, people don't realize when you take away somebody's right to vote, regardless of what it is, that's just it's anti-democratic. Even somebody who has done wrong, and a lot of times people in these predicaments aren't violent crimes and violent offenders,
You know
and
what?
people think like because we watch too much TV.
That's
This is
right.
average regular day people who are locked up. They had something going on and they're paying for their sins, but they still need to have a voice because they may have kids, families, anybody who is still outside and they need representation.
But you know what, Sherman, not to cut you off, some of them are
Mhm.
getting released in 20 and 30 days. Some of them are not even in for a long time. And when I was running in the last election, I had to go in there because the Board of Elections in my area refused to really even take anything over there to them. And,
Mm.
many of them were getting out in 30 days, 2 weeks.
Yeah,
It was like small traffic.
yeah.
Most of them were in there for traffic things. We're not even talking about felons. We're not even talking about bad mass
It's
misdemeanors.
disenfranchisement.
It
And
was
now you
like
see why I want to end traffic stops.
it was just small stuff. And everybody thought I was crazy by doing it. But, and it was something that was
Mm.
suggested to me. It wasn't just my idea. So I'm not going to act like it was. But guess what? We all get information from somebody if it's even on Google. So bottom line is
Yeah, yeah,
I made
yeah.
the move to do it. Nobody else did. So, you know what I'm saying? So I'm claiming it. But, and so it is important that they finally are going to put pressure. So now my county has to do it. So now they realize they probably think I wrote that bill. I wish I would have. I wish I sat down and wrote it with them, but I didn't. Not that one, but I had something to do with some of those bills in the
Yeah.
session. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, I was definitely excited because during that time I was also promoting like the drop boxes, and I remember talking to Richard and saying that we needed to write something so that it could be something permanent because it was definitely beneficial. But and one last bill that um and keeping the thing because I I feel like we need to liberate our people when it comes to criminal justice, and that's why I'm like tirelessly, supportive of bills that kind of remove some of those layers and give us a little latitude to be free and to breathe.
Okay.
Which was Senate Bill 494, which would essentially ban life without parole for juveniles.
Oh yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Yeah.
when you think about it. Yeah, I mean that juveniles make mistakes, and some of them are very egregious. But I think we need to get back to the intended purpose of corrections and jails and prison facilities, which is restoration. People need to be
Yeah.
able to be brought back into society. We're not supposed to be up here, doing this, to just fill in seats, so that we can, keep the budget going.
I hear you. And that's definitely an important bill because psychiatrists will tell you that juveniles and youths are very impulsive and depending upon their environment, there might be mental issues that they're dealing with that also may impact. I remember a case, and I can't remember the case, where a youth was, and they're still fighting to get him out of jail, where he was actually
Mhm.
intimidated into in being involved in a crime, and it was an older man who was beating his mom, and they were strung out on drugs, and he's still in jail
Right.
for this crime, but really he had no choice because of the type of toxic environment he was in, and the court just gave him no quarter, uh, and it
Yeah.
sad story. And while he was in jail, he's really been able to reform himself and become literate and all the kind of things that really what
Mhm.
rehab is supposed to be, rehabilitation is supposed to be. And they're just, he got that life sentence. So we don't know what's going to happen. I haven't heard anything recent with the case, but, the intent of our rehabilitation or at least detention system is to rehabilitate people so they can get a second chance. And America is supposed to be the country
Yeah. Yeah.
chances.
Yeah.
And of
Yeah.
course, there's always exceptions to every rule. Everything is an individual situation because there are exceptions, and I agree because there'll always be somebody. Don't come at me crazy, public. I just said something. Yes,
Mhm.
there is exceptions, so I'm not crazy, but there are also many that prove that there are people deserving of that second chance. So we've come to this point,
Yeah.
Sherman. Let's get ready to oh, really pressing issues folks want to know about you. So
Okay.
okay. In the last General Assembly, they repealed this Maryland State song. So would you have been, if you were in that position, you have been for or against repealing the Maryland State song? For or
I'm for I am for removing every piece of racist memorability that we have. We can put it in a storage somewhere so they can lock that song up right in that vault.
in other words, you're like Ludacris, move out the way, out the way. All
Absolutely.
right.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, quite as I don't even know what the song says, but it's racist, so I'm not even going to give it any, energy.
Okay, Girl Scout cookies, lemon ups or Samoas? Lemon ups or Samoas?
I mean, people be saying dosey dos. I really don't do Girl Scout cookies, to be honest
What?
with you. But if
No.
it was shortbreads, I like shortbread
You
cookies when
like
it comes. Yeah, I'm
shortbreads?
sorry.
Okay. No, that's okay. You can do
Okay.
shortbreads because even though I said lemon ups, shortbread's okay. But Samoas are the things. Anyway,
Somebody did tell me about that, so I may have to find the Girl Scout and it's
you
like,
gotta
hook me
find
up.
them Girl Scouts. Let me tell you, they
I was
got
in Boy Scout. We were selling M&Ms. That sucked
them M&Ms ain't nothing on them Girl Scout cookies. Let me tell you.
at all. They do it so wrong.
So if you're gonna get wings, are you for the flats or the drums? Flats or the drums?
Hmm. I had been a drum person in my early stages of life, but as I grew up,
Say
definitely
it.
a flat.
Say it. Oh, yes, 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 yes. I'm about the flats myself. Okay.
I mean, because the meat is more tender. I mean, why not?
Just say it how it is. And it also holds that nice hot spice on it much better than the drum. The
But
drum.
you know what? Don't get the attention that it deserves, and because it don't have enough meat on it, the actual tips.
Yeah,
God bless the tips.
God bless the.
I like them with the tips too.
I'm telling you, it's like George Clinton ain't nothing but tipping,
Yes.
So we're gonna go to another old memorabilia. So are you for replacing the Talbot Boys statue on the Eastern Shore with Frederick Douglass's statue, or are you for maintaining that old ugly thing?
No, I think we need more statues and symbolism of African American history. Tear it down and put up Frederick Douglass. Give me one with Harriet somewhere. You know, I would love to see, huh?
Go, keep on going.
No, I was just saying I would love to see, you know, us start naming streets and different things. You know, as county executive, whenever we do new constructions, I was going to look into that to figure out how we can name some of these streets after prominent African Americans. You know, so that we can, you know, be proud of our history and, you know, have a reminder of it as well, where we come from. Not just have an MLK Boulevard. You know, we can do better than that.
And Maryland has a rich history of African Americans. I mean, every time we read about American history, people be thinking, oh, it's some other place, like it's Mars. We in Maryland, baby. That's where history happens. Jeez. Like, I don't know where they think.
I don't know why people don't understand that Maryland is the northernmost southern state.
Tell them, because I keep on trying to explain to them.
Our country like me.
I'm like, it's below the Mason-Dixon line. They were like, would that be? I said, look up your history, Harpo.
Anyway. Yes. You gotta know learn your history. Learn your history.
And it's not called critical racial theory. It's just called American history, baby.
American history.
History. Yeah. For those who don't get that. All right. The Purge, the series, or The Purge, the movies? Which one? The Purge, the series.
I haven't watched the series. I might have to check it out.
Let me tell you, you need to check it out. I'm gonna tell you, but don't worry about that. But I'm gonna tell you, they good, both of them. They crazy, but they good. You know they.
And I'm gonna let you know. I'm gonna let you know later.
That's right. Okay, Barney Rubble or Fred.
But you know, for me, I know you.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Say what you're gonna say.
I was gonna say that. I mean, the only thing I'm waiting for next is Insecure to come back. I'm waiting for, you know, a couple of, you know, my Game of Thrones spinoffs definitely, and also what other show I can't wait to come back out. It was oh God, I can't think of it, but it's fantasy.
Okay, we have to think about that. I'm sorry. So Barney Rubble versus Fred Flintstone. Barney Rubble or Fred Flintstone?
That's a real throwback.
Yes. You know I'm old.
I'm gonna go. I don't remember it. I remember watching it with Felix the Cat and stuff like that, but I'm gonna go with Barney.
All right, that's different. Okay, this is real old. You might not know this.
I like to be different.
But I'm gonna go with it. The Last Dragon with Bruce Leroy or Birth of a Dragon with Bruce Lee. Which one?
The Last Dragon.
You better go there because it was funny.
Yeah.
He also had Vanity in there.
I love old martial arts movies. I haven't watched them in a while, but definitely, you know, my stepfather used to watch that and like the cowboy movie. So I kind of, you know, love the old school martial arts where it's like so cheesy and corny. You can see the string flying and everything. But definitely Lee is or Ip Man. I love that one too.
So we're gonna go into some music categories. We're gonna have Maya or Tracy Braxton. Maya or Tracy Braxton.
Maya.
Yeah, that was pretty easy.
I grew up listening to Maya. I grew up listening to Maya. So
yeah, I knew that was gonna be easy. Baltimore club house music or DC go-go music. Yeah, you better say the right thing. Say it right.
No, I'll say what I feel. No, because I have grown to appreciate go-go music. You know, I'm not originally from, you know, the area, so I mean, but that music is still influencing different other cultures. And I remember doing the butt, you know, in grade school, you know, at the school dance. But Definitely, I love a little house music too. So
Yeah, you got to get that house. Got to
I'm
get
gonna
that
go
club.
with yeah,
What
yeah.
you got?
I'm gonna go with house. I'm gonna go with house.
What? Baltimore? What you
House on house music. Because
Baltimore?
that just reminds me of my early 20s going to the club and just, you know.
Right. That's right. So now we're gonna finish it up. Uh, we got a Maryland crab cake at Jimmy's Seafood in Baltimore. You may have went there, you may have not. Or a Maryland crab cake at Moe's Crabs and Seafood. It's out in Prince George's. I'm pretty sure you're familiar with Moe's and Crab and Seafood. So which one?
So it sounds like I'm gonna have to take a couple of field trips. Because I
Yeah,
haven't been to either, to be quite honest.
well, you know what? You're gonna have to take a couple of field trips, but you especially got to take one to Moe's Crabs and Seafood because it's what? It's in Prince
Yes.
George's County.
Yeah. Definitely got to support home team. Like I really truly don't go out of my county to like get food. So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I'm living in food swamps and food deserts, but definitely, I'm sticking up for home team. So Mose, I'm gonna come check you out. Like, hook me up. And
So,
can I tell them you sent me so I can get a special?
hey, I don't even know them, but I'm about to go to Moe's because if I'm shouting out Moe's gonna know who I
I was about to say,
am.
and did they contribute to Beats in Politics? Because this is a commercial
Yeah,
break.
but guess what? Yeah, that's right. They're about to. They're about to. Trust me, if I'm gonna shout them out. And so,
Right.
yeah, so I mean, it's been great talking to you, Sherman. You know I love you, and I wish you all the best in everything you're doing. Is there anything that you feel like we haven't covered that you want to get out of your?
Besides telling people to go to my website, www.hardy4pg.com. Once again, that is www.hardy4pg.com. And I ask that you search your hearts and your minds. And you ask yourself and you seriously consider, are you better off now than you were a couple of years ago? 1, 2, 3, 4 years ago? And I ask that you take a look at my policies and see how it's going to help and benefit the people and bring about systemic and generational change. I'm trying to make sure that, we produce the best of the best here in Prince George's County and that we live, work, and play here in a nice, gorgeous Prince George's. So please consider voting for Sherman Hardy in June of 2022.
Awesome. And for those, go to his website. You can volunteer and whatever other things you need to do. But for you guys, boys and girls, we're going to have Beats in Politics again. We're going to have some great guests that are coming up on the rest of the summer. I'm doing the one-on-ones, and we're going to have our great crazy panel back in September to break down all the races and everything. And as you know, I'm getting my campaign. Well, I'm getting it pumped up.
Yes.
And
Get it started.
don't worry, boys and girls. Announcement time is definitely coming around the bend, y'all. Woody partner. That's all I gotta say. Anyway, I'm being a little weird. But the thing about it is that we enjoy having a great time at BNP and everything, but I'm very serious about my area as Sherman is. And the one thing I say, any person I bring on here, whether they've been in politics a long time or a short time, I believe in truly in their heart, they're trying to work to help our community. And so put it in your heart to really look at Sherman's website and what he's about and give everybody a chance. All right. Anyway, signing off, people. It's BPD.
All right, guys. See, our people, we just love music, don't we? We some musical people.